everyone. I hope you are having a fantastic day. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the podcasts that I've been enjoying listening to lately. I don't want to say they're favorites because I don't really have favorites and because I listen to so many of them, but yeah, I had asked in a video a little while ago if you wanted to have me do an updated podcast video. So that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. And I've broken it up by categories. So that way, if you have a favorite type of podcast, you can jump to that category and hear about the ones that you're interested in, but hopefully you will stay and listen to all of the ones I want to share with you. If you have any podcast recommendations you would like to share, I would love to hear about them, so leave them down in the comments because while I do have quite a list, I am always looking to add to it and have more to listen to. I typically listen to podcasts while I'm driving, but I do have quite a short commute, so my commute alone doesn't allow for me to listen to enough that it would be worthwhile only listening to them in the car. So I also listen to them when I'm doing things around the house, like cleaning, sometimes while getting ready, just to have on something in the background and be able to listen to something, but also be able to learn or be entertained through a podcast. So let's get right into it. I'm going to start with what I'm calling TV show podcasts. So they might be podcasts that give a little bit more of an in-depth behind-the-scenes look of a TV show, or they might be ones that go through older TV series and take you through episode by episode. The first one for TV shows is Bridgerton, the official podcast. And I've only listened to it for season 1. I don't know if they've done any episodes for season 2, but I'm guessing that they are going to be doing episodes for season 2. But I've only listened to season 1. And let me just see if I can find a description of the podcast for you. Also, I don't know if it's possible for me to link these because I use Apple Podcasts and some of you might be using Spotify or other podcast players. So I'll just try to at least list them for you so you can search them. Well, they're not really giving much description on this one, but this is one of the ones that goes more behind the scenes. So it starts with locating Bridgerton, talking about the locations for shooting and what went into that. So each episode goes behind the scenes as far as a different element of the show, who was involved, what went into it, and how it worked and everything like that. So if you like Bridgerton, I think you would enjoy this to get a more in-depth look of how the show comes together, what is really involved in making the show. For instance, one episode just gets into the music of the show, which I know is a part of the show that I really enjoy. Costume design, storytelling, how it was adapted from the books, Lady Whistledown, and so on and so on. And they have some of the actors and big players in the show on for interviews. So ultimately, I think if you like Bridgerton, you will like the podcast. The next one in TV shows is about the show One Tree Hill, which I watched all of a number of years ago after it had been off of TV, but still it was a while ago. 3 of the actors in that show, Sophia Bush, Hilary Burton, and Bethany Joy Lenz, who played Haley, Peyton, and Brooke, basically they're going through episode by episode and talking to you about it. So they'll start with season 1, episode 1. They go back and rewatch it, and then they get together and discuss it, what they remember from it. They get into the story part of it, the script, what happens, their thoughts on what happens, but they also get into a lot of what they remember going on during the filming, stories you might never have heard, behind the scenes, that sort of stuff. They usually have a guest on that's in some way related to the episode, so maybe another actor or actress from the episode, maybe someone who wrote or directed. So I find it interesting. It's got me going back and rewatching the episodes. So before I listen to the podcast episode, I make sure that I've seen that episode of the show and it's kind of fun to get their take on it and some of that behind the scenes information, and yeah, it's just fun and entertaining. So if you like the show One Tree Hill, or maybe want to get into it now, they have a podcast to go along with it. And in case I didn't say, the name of that is Drama Queens. Now, for my Gilmore Girls fans out there, there is a podcast for you as well. I mean, I'm sure there's probably multiple Gilmore Girls podcasts, but this is the one I know about. It is done by the actor who plays Luke. What is his name? Scott Patterson, who plays Luke. And he does sort of a similar thing where he goes through episode by episode, but evidently he never really watched the show, so he only had it from the perspective of acting in it and recording it, but didn't sit down and watch episode to episode, so didn't necessarily see how they were edited or pieced together. So now he's going back through, watching it, recapping the episodes, but again having guests on who were on the show or maybe worked on the show to talk about what they remember about it, as well as the episode and what happened in it. But he also does a fun and creative thing, at least I'm always behind on podcasts, so I'm only on season 1 of the podcast, but also season 1 of the show is what they're still talking about. And because I listen to so many podcasts, it takes me a while to get through them all. But he does another fun thing where he'll kind of go through and pick out the pop culture references from an episode and how it fit during the time, but how now it might be totally outdated, or someone who's watching the show for the first time who might be younger might completely not get the pop culture reference. So it's kind of a fun take on things to hear that part of it as well. That one again is I'm All In with Scott Patterson. So if you're a Gilmore Girl fan, I think you would like it. And the final one for TV show podcasts is for fans of The Office. And it is called Office Ladies, and it is hosted by Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey. Kinsey? Is that how you say it? Yeah, Angela Kinsey. So the actress who played Pam and the actress who played Angela, and they, very similar to the others I've talked about, go through episode by episode talking about the story of the episode, and they almost go through minute by minute. They also share some fast facts, as they call it. They also have on guests, fellow actors, the creator, production crew, all that sort of stuff. Talk about what they remember from the episode, and again give some behind the scenes of things that might have happened during the recording or on the episode that you may not have heard about. So if you're a fan of The Office, this would be a podcast for you. Next, I have a couple of history podcasts that I want to share with you. There are certain topics that I'm always trying to learn more about, one of which is history, because there's just so much history to cover, and I feel like I can always be absorbing and learning more about history. I have a very long way to go, but I try to learn what I can. Another topic I would like to learn more about, but it's a little trickier, I'm not really sure where to begin, is the economy and economics and breaking that down simply and understanding it well. So if you have any podcasts or YouTube channels that would explain that simply, I would love the recommendations. But as far as the history podcasts I've been listening to, the first one is called You're Dead to Me, and it's by the BBC. And they'll typically have, so they have the host, and then they'll typically have on a history expert to talk about that particular historical subject or time. And then they also usually have on some sort of comedian or something like that to give a lighter perspective. Also, the comedian or whoever they have on typically doesn't have a lot of knowledge about the subject, so they're learning along with you, the listener, and they kind of quiz them at the end to see what they learned. And I don't know, I think it's interesting and a good way to learn about history. When I got my new phone, they updated and changed the whole podcast app on me. I don't love it as much, but maybe that's just because I'm not adjusting to change that great. Who knows? But when I go to look for descriptions of the shows, it's not giving me descriptions. It's just kind of giving me the latest episode description. So I'm doing the best I can to share it with you. But just to give you some examples maybe of some episodes and some points in history that they cover would be the Spartans, history of football, Joan of Arc, the Mayflower, the history of chocolate. So as you can see, it covers a wide array of topics and times in history. The Aztecs, so it doesn't necessarily, it's not going to go in like sequential history order, but it will cover different things that happened in history or periods in history. So if you want to learn more about history, check out You're Dead to Me. And then the other history one I listen to is Dark History, which is hosted by Bailey Sarian, who is a YouTuber, and she became very popular on YouTube for doing the series Murder, Mystery, and Makeup. And she does it on Monday, so it would always be Murder, Mystery, and Makeup Monday, where she'll tell you a true crime story and do her makeup at the same time. But she also came out with this other series called Dark History, which she does share on YouTube, but also does it as a podcast. And I tend to listen to it more as podcasts because they're typically anywhere from 50 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes. And I usually don't have that much time to stop and watch a YouTube video that long. I can often listen to it in podcast form, not all in one sitting, but over a couple of days or something like that. Each week, she will explore the chilling stories of the dark past from US and world history that they don't teach you in school. So some topics she's covered so far are the DuPont chemical scandal, Zoot Suit riots, the Rosewood massacre, the Trail of Tears, Thomas Edison, concentration camps in America, the bubonic plague. So she covers a wide array of topics that may not have been covered in your history classes, but also may have been touched on but not have given a lot of details. So if you want to learn more about lesser known things that went on in history or things that maybe weren't talked about so much, check out Dark History. Next up is a news podcast that I want to share with you. I don't consume a lot of news myself. I don't sit down and watch the news because I find it to be, one, depressing, two, just causes stress and worry, and very negative. So I do my best to stay informed, but don't take in news every day or watch it regularly. I will look at headlines and things online and read things if it seems very important or of interest to me. But for the most part, I'm not paying a ton of attention to news while still trying to be informed as best I can. But one way I do like to get news is through a podcast called Skimm This. So the Skimm is a company that started out by sending emails which kind of break down the news of the day for you in a concise way, so you can get those headlines and then you can click to get further details if you want to. But they branched out into a podcast, and it comes out weekly. They cover the big stories of the week, but they make it very easy to understand in the way that they explain it, and they break it down to give what you need to know without it being like too much information kind of thing. So the way they describe it is, Skimm This breaks down the most complicated stories of the week and gives you the context on why they matter. So they'll usually do like a top story of the week, but then they'll also answer questions from listeners or viewers that a story in the week that they might want broken down or explained better. They'll take that question and that story and they'll break it down in 60 seconds for you to make it more concise and understandable. So if you want a concise, informative, easy to understand way to get your news, I would check out the Skimm This podcast. Next, I have some inspirational, motivational, uplifting podcasts to share with you because I always enjoy those and I always find I get something out of them, and just it can put me in the right mindset, the right perspective. So the first one is called Optimal Living Daily, and it's called that because it comes out with a new episode every single day, 365 days a year. So, I mean, that's a lot of work. They're usually shorter and they cover all kinds of topics. So it says we handpick and read you the best content on personal development, minimalism, finance, health, business, and more with author permission. Think of Optimal Living Daily as an audio blog or blogcast where the best blogs are narrated to you for free. Inspire positive changes in your life on the go. So that's one that I enjoy listening to. And the other one is called Practical Positivity by Sophie Cliff. And this is one where especially particular episodes have very much helped me and very much helped my mindset, helped me with just my outlook on things, with the way I approach things, and it's always good to come back to it and give myself that refresher and everything like that. So this is Sophie saying about her podcast. Practical Positivity is the podcast for you. Each week I share stories, anecdotes, and the lessons I'm learning in my own quest to live a joyful life on my own terms. Expect tips on how you can squeeze more joy out of your everyday, mindset hacks that will help you to build your confidence, and a whole lot of practical positivity. We'll chat about the common challenges and issues that so many of us seem to face, challenge the versions of success we've been taught to strive towards, and generally have a whole load of fun along the way. So there you go. If you're looking for some more inspiration, positivity, and a way to not only make the most of your time, but look at the world in a more positive way, check out Practical Positivity. I'm going to end with what I'm guessing most of you are here for, which is the mystery and true crime podcasts, because I know these are very popular with a lot of people. And they are also some of my favorites. So the first one, many of you may have heard of, it's called Crime Junkie, and they go through different true crime stories and kind of give their perspective on them. It's done by Ashley Flowers, and she also has her friend Britt on as kind of a co-host. I think she also may help her research and that stuff. But they cover a different case for each episode pretty much, unless they do two-parters, talk about what happened in the case. And I don't know, I just like the style of the way they explain it, the way they break it down. So if you can't get enough of true crime, check out Crime Junkie if you haven't already. Another one that I like that is great for you book lovers out there is called Pheobe Reads a Mystery, because she'll go through and read a lot of Agatha Christie books. I think it's branched out into other things than just mystery now, but I found it from her reading Agatha Christie books. So each podcast episode is basically a chapter of the book. So if you're looking to get more reading into your day, or just like hearing mysteries, or maybe are an Agatha Christie lover, I think you would like Pheobe Reads a Mystery. This next one is a newer one that I've discovered, but I'm really loving because I like the true crime podcasts where it's, them telling real life stories almost in more of a reporter format, but I really like kind of the old style, almost like you would hear on the radio mysteries, where it's people acting out a scene and so it's almost like you're watching a movie except you're just listening to it, because they've got sound effects and music and all of that sort of stuff, but it's really getting you into the story because you're hearing the characters and that sort of stuff. So this one kind of blends the best of both those worlds. It's called Solve, and it is basing this story off of real crimes that have happened, but it might not be the exact story. It might just take some of that crime and then adapt it, but it is all based on some sort of true story or true crime that happened, but they have actors acting out the parts, so it makes it more of a detective mystery story. And as they put it, you are the detective. So you've got to listen for clues to kind of figure out who is the culprit or who did the crime or whatever it may be that happened, because it's not always murders, it could be a robbery or whatever. So it will kind of give little hints and clues throughout that you have to listen for. It's nice because they are usually short, only around 20 minutes to half an hour. And then at the end it will say, okay, we've given you all the information, now it's your turn, you decide, you're the detective, who did it. And they'll give you the list of suspects, and then they'll usually go to a commercial break so you can kind of guess in your head who you think it was. And then they come back and tell you who it was, how it happened, and the clues you should have looked for. Some of them I figured it out, some I have not. So if you're into murder mysteries like me, true crime, anything like that, I think you would really like Solve. And then the final one is one that has been around for a long time, but I hadn't really heard about it or found it for some reason, and it's called Wine and Crime. So it's another true crime podcast where they go through these true crime stories, but it's three friends who are all Midwestern. I think they live in Minnesota, so they have those Midwestern Minnesota accents, but they're drinking wine while they're talking about the true crime, as is the case with a lot of these true crime podcasts. Sometimes they all start to sound similar, where you've got martinis and murder, true crime and cocktails, wine and crime. So there's usually some sort of drinking and crime involved in the story. But these girls, they're not making it comedic or funny. They kind of have a way of keeping it entertaining and interesting and a little bit light, even though it's usually very heavy, awful topics. So if you do love all the different true crime podcasts out there that are sort of in that format, and you haven't checked out Wine and Crime, you might like that one as well. But that is it for the podcast that I'm going to share with you today. I listened to many others as well, but those are the ones that I've really been enjoying lately and that I also thought you would like hearing about. So let me know if you've listened to any of them or if you've gotten any ideas from my suggestions. And I look forward to hearing your recommendations. And if you've never listened to a podcast before, I think you would enjoy it. It's kind of like listening to the radio, but you get to choose what you want to listen to. More talk radio, not music, but you get to choose what you want to listen to, and I imagine there's a podcast for every possible topic out there, and you usually can just get them on your phone. So if you're someone who likes audiobooks, I think podcasts you would really like as well. But yeah, if you've never tried them or checked them out, it's a great form of entertainment, but also a great way to educate yourself about various topics. So check them out if you haven't already. I thank you so much for watching. Give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It really does help me out, and I appreciate it so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!